before I watched the recording of this year's annual meeting of the Sussex Police Panel, I downloaded the indicative timetable. I had never before noticed items being divided oddly into sub-items, and having 2 11s and no 13 was certainly a novelty. Unless item 6 and the second 11 were to provide it, little novelty was to be expected in the subject matter. So my comments on this meeting will include an item of my own, referred to in the video's title. That I will deal with immediately after items 6 and 11.
The next item on our agenda is the public question time, and no public questions have been received. As if you have ideas for trying to get the public more engaged with us to ask questions, please bring them forward. Let Ninesh know.
The toady in the highest chair is referring to the person on his left, with whom he sometimes confers with microphones off, although this is supposed to be a public meeting.
Okay, well we now, unfortunately, as with the public questions earlier, unfortunately we haven't received any written questions, so we must again look for your ideas as to how we can encourage those questions to come forward.
Not allowing the county council to run the panel would help. When I complained to the council that when the commissioner had appeared to be lying, members of the panel were too diffident or too ignorant to raise objections, and that the panel's website included nothing about complaints about the panel and the council officers who manage it, I was told by the senior advisor, "The issues you raise seem to be a matter of interpretation. The statutory complaints process is not really set up to handle such issues. There is currently no mechanism for submitting complaints about the Police and Crime Panel itself. On the West Sussex County Council's website is an off-putting page about these annual questions. A Democratic Services officer could decide that a question saying someone appears to be lying is defamatory, and that adverse criticism could annoy a panel member. Any member of the public might think that police answering the telephone is an operational matter, or worry whether their own grievance is a common problem. My own addition to the agenda is speech disfluency. To examine that, I will use Bourne's first speech to set a standard, and then see if any other speaker matches or surpasses her performance. Examples of speech disfluency include utterances like and the repetition of a syllable, word or phrase. Bourne's first speech lasts 58 seconds. Any viewer can test their acuity by counting the number of examples of speech disfluency present before I give the number shown by an audio editor. Here we go.
Thank you very much. First of all, before I do, just to say from our point of view, welcome as the new chair of the Police and Crime Panel, and to vice chair as well. I look forward to working closely with you both over the coming year. So, right, moving on to the annual report. I think the report's fairly self-explanatory. I have a statutory duty to produce an annual report under the Policing and Crime Act, and the contents here follow very much the 4 priority areas of the new Police and Crime Plan, which is now published and available to view online, and that we've tried to really put some pointers underneath each of those priority areas so you can see how I am devolving my duties, as it were. I think that's probably all I wanted to say, unless Mr. Street has got anything you want to add.
The total is 14. 58 divided by 14 results in a disfluency index of 4.14. With that figure in mind, I reached item 10A before finding a lower index. This lasts 104 seconds.
Thanks, Chairman. Yeah, it's, as always, fairly straightforward. I suppose one important function of this report is to make transparent the budget. So that's summarised under 1.1. Actually, the panel is able to claim up to a maximum. I think it is, sort of £72,000. So we've there is, as has always been the case since the panel was founded, we're actually operating at less than our budget would allow us to. A lot of that is down to member expenses, I have to say. So, the £1,690 claimed by members there is actually far lower than the budget would take. So I'd urge you to submit claims. And then from section 2 and the subsections, the paragraphs within that, I've tried to give a flavour for the work the panel has undertaken throughout the year. Again, it's challenging to sort of quantify what successes look like, but we've had a good bash at least indicate the outcomes arising from the work of the panel, and include a flavour of that as well. So one change, just briefly, finally, we're now required. There's no ring fence on our grant, but the in return, as it were, we have to we publish details of panel's expenses, the panel's expenses for the year in a bit more detail than set out in this report. So if panel members or the public are interested in looking at that, that can be found on the website. And I think there's a link in the report as well. Thank you, Chairman.
I rate that at 37 disfluency elements, giving a disfluency index of 2.81, and making the special advisor the Chief Ermer. The panel's Chief Ermer urging panel members to claim more expenses prompts me to wonder whether the Commissioner has more than enough money to spend also. At this meeting, she repeated an announcement I have heard before.
I have commissioned a review from HMIC, who will come back hopefully later this year, to do a full review and inspection into Sussex Police's response to tackling stalking and harassment.
And will we be paying for that? We already pay for you and your office to produce a police plan and ensure that the Chief Constable carries it out. And we pay for HMIC to produce reports, primarily by police officers, on the police forces of England and Wales, and now you are commissioning police officers to do what Parliament meant a representative of the people to do. I cannot remember how many times I've heard long, repetitive, statistic-laden replies being read out in answer to the question about failures to meet the police's 101 targets for answering the phone. On this day, the mastermind behind Sussex Police ended her answer with her current strategy.
Consistency in terms of performance levels and user satisfaction is more important to me than the time it takes to answer the call itself. So what I'm trying to do is get less focus on the time taken and more on the outcome. And I will be revisiting this on a regular basis as I do through my monitoring.
Thank you, Commissioner. A very comprehensive answer.
One question from a councillor has persuaded me of the futility of trying to improve a substandard police force which routinely engages in organised dishonesty and law-breaking. Councillor Webster asked a question and received an answer which persuade me that I should give up wasting time watching webcasts of the panel and the Commissioner. This is what Webster asked.
And I would also appreciate the Commissioner's view on the HMIC report, where I think they gave Sussex a good rating for the accuracy of reported crimes, and I believe that we are the only force in the country to have such a rating, and I would appreciate her views on that as well, please. Thank you.
If you weren't sure, why didn't you look it up? During years of police authority and police panel meetings, I never heard any committee member mention reading anything in an HMIC report for themselves. I think you were wrong. You, Councillor Webster, are evidently not mentally retarded, so I presume that you were blinded by political prejudice, or were over keen to provide the Commissioner with an opportunity for boasting. You may not know that experiments staging crimes before unsuspecting witnesses and asking those witnesses to give an account of what happened have elicited a surprisingly wide range of answers. But any unprejudiced person of normal intelligence should realise immediately that a police officer from elsewhere has no hope whatever of knowing that a single crime committed in Sussex has been accurately recorded. Here is an extract from a YouTube video called Sussex Police Puffers that I put online on the 25th of September 2016. Let us examine what the Commissioner has just said. I think Bourne said with 95% of recorded crimes being recorded accurately, whereas the report claims to have found to an accuracy of 2 decimal places that most crimes reported to Sussex Police were actually recorded. I've not tried to make out what HMIC means by recorded. Presumably most reports of crime are automatically recorded digitally when victims are able to speak to the police over a telephone system. Perhaps it refers to the transfer of some of that data to the official crime reports database. The adverb accurately does not appear in the report, though the adjective appears in a paragraph about a source of inaccuracy, temporary sergeants having insufficient knowledge and experience to supervise accurate crime recording. What was Bourne's answer to Councillor Webster?
And to date, Sussex Police remains, as you're correct, the only force in the country where they're rated as good in the accuracy of recording crimes. So I think their accuracy is around 93–94% at the moment. So it's definitely to be commended. So at least public can feel reassured that when they report a crime, it is accurately recorded in the first instance.
Is everyone present so ignorant that they have no reason to object to such preposterous lies from the Commissioner?
No? Okay, thank you very much indeed. Working group appointments. Essentially we have a standing working group which acts as a critical friend to the development of the precept and any revisions to the police and crime plan. The Commissioner's Office intends the same this year?
Yes, they do intend to discuss the precept and revisions to plans with a subset of the panel on 2 or 3 occasions. I was annoyed when at this January's meeting of the police panel I first heard of the existence of this private plan and precept working group. I included this in a video called Sussex Police Inflated. My anger at these proceedings was increased. Anger had started with item 4 on the agenda of this meeting. A 5-minute slot had been allotted to a report from a subset of the panel, membership largely unknown, who had worked on the police plan and the precept proposal together with people from the Commissioner's Office. That put me in mind of police lawyers redacting police officers' evidence before a public inquiry.
And first of all, I'd like to thank the officer team at the Commissioner's Office for the help and assistance that they gave in allowing us to work our way through the process.
Could subsets of HMIC inspectors help tidy up police statistics, before making a formal inspection of the force. I had thought that parliamentary legislation expected the Commissioner to produce police plans and decide what the precept, council tax for the police, should be, and that the panel should at public meetings accept or reject her proposals. I had thought the Commissioner's office and the police panel were separate entities, not partners or friends. No member of this panel questioned the function of the working group, though I have been led to believe that two of its members are lawyers, one of whom agreed to join the self-nominated chairman as a member of the group.
Are you happy to volunteer, Councillor Mitchell?
Unless someone wants to volunteer before me.
Okay, so it is myself, Councillor Mitchell, Councillor Lintle, and Mr Nightingale.
But the Commissioner's chief executive, who is not a panel member, but who, with 28 years as a Sussex police officer, must have had plenty of experience with organised dishonesty and law-breaking by the police, suggested that the title of the group should be changed to something less precise, avoiding the word precept, budget being preferable. Sussex Police and Crime Plans and maximum practicable precepts could be private stitch-up.